This every night, but every night it's true. I can't. You read the morning papers on what's going on in Florida in the election. By the time we do the show, tape at 5 o'clock, it's all obsolete. It's a lot of legal wrangling, but all I can tell you as of this day, Thursday night, is that it seems to come down to whether you believe a hand count. The Democrats believe a hand count is more valid than a machine count. And I tend to agree with that policy. I'm not necessarily a Democrat, but I tend to think that a hand count... Now, James Baker said, the more you handle these ballots, the more they deteriorate.
No, that means they're not on hand count is more valid.
No, they are. The Chads are falling out.
The Chads should fall out. That indicates who voted.
No,
I've got a hanging dimpled Chad, and it's in good shape.
Perfectly valid.
I've been handling myself for years and I haven't deteriorated.
You know,
that's poppycock. Next.
You'll go blind if you handle that Chad too much.
You mean your own Chad, your Chad.
Doesn't this show have a huge blind demographic, though?
Yeah.
But Bill, not only that, it's not just that it's a hand count. It's a hand count of only 3 Democratic counties.
Okay, well, first of all, Gore said yesterday, please do it in every county in the state. Bush didn't want that to happen. He asked for that. The problem is whether a hand count is more accurate, and I think a hand count is. I think it's good when the Chads fall off.
See, this is where I run into trouble. I mean, I've watched a couple of video bites, I guess, of the process, and this morning as I got up and checked it, I was in my home and having a cup of coffee, and I saw someone walk over with a handful of hand ballots, and I guess said to them, count these are all somebody's name, and they started going like this. Yeah, I get about 15 out of this. Well, how can that possibly be an accurate process?
Yeah, but the machines that they're using are 30 years old.
Well, that's okay.
It's ridiculous.
Also, I thought that's odd. And I thought the other video piece of information that I have to make this adjudication that I'm attempting to make is that when a guy took a little, what looked like a razor pencil, you know, like a skill knife, and pulled one of the little Chad things off, and then held it up in the air and said, "Oh, okay, that's what that was." I thought.
You're obviously watching MSNBC.
Well, this was CNN, but I still thought, how can somebody count that? And then I think, unfortunately, once you agree that the hand count is the valid one, I think you do have to count all the counties.
Yeah, but how can you do that,
who
though?
says that's valid?
But there's so many different interpretations of the Chad. I mean, they're pregnant Chads, they're hanging Chads,
and then if there's any question, I think you got to throw them out.
Yeah, but then the more that they're handled, the Chads will...
Unless it's absolutely clear. That's, if there's a dimple and you start playing with it and then pulling it out and then pass it on to somebody else and say, what do you think of this? I don't know.
It'll get infected, won't it? The dimple will get infected.
I think it makes them invalid.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't?
No, because there are rules to this process. People think there aren't rules.
But I'm watching it on videotape.
Right there.
I'm watching it happen.
From county to county, and they can't count all the counties.
But maybe they're not showing on the video the fact that there has to be a Republican and a Democrat there at the time, and that the counting is being done by clerks who get $8 an hour.
Right. And then where does it go after those 3 people put it together?
Well,
then where does it go?
Right, and where was it
police
before
there?
What we get.
Oh, there are
there's
not
17 other people going over there. When was the last time you worked with a bunch of policemen that were adequate? You know, that you really were able to trust?
And it also,
I love the police. I do.
It also calls into question all of the other votes in every other state in this country, because millions of votes were thrown out in this country because of various errors or so on. And you're only wanting to recount the votes in 3 counties in Florida? It doesn't make sense.
Well, as I said, Al Gore volunteered to have all the counties recounted by hand.
Under law. They can't recount the other ones. In fact, they're not
sure
supposed to be counting the 3
If the Secretary of
Democratic
State,
counties
the Bush delegate, would say we want to do that. But they don't. They want to rush this.
No, there are laws, and there is a Florida law that says the deadline was Tuesday. It says it's mandatory.
After 2 counts, the guy has won twice. Now, granted, if it was me, I'd say, why are we still counting? If it was on the other guy's foot, he'd probably be saying, why are we still counting?
Well, first of all,
There's still votes that have to come in, right? I mean,
Well, absentee, yeah.
That's not what we're talking about here. And that's also a lie. That's what James Baker says. Says, yeah, we agreed to the second count. They didn't agree to anything. That was a Florida law
Right,
that
but
said
it
if
can
it's
be
this
waived.
close, there has to be a mandatory
No,
recount.
everyone keeps saying that on TV. Yes, it's mandatory, but all that means is the loser doesn't have to pay for it. If Al Gore had stuck to his concession, we would not have been going through this. This is all Al Gore's fault. He's dragging the country through this. It is not.
All right. Okay.
But you know, I mean,
Good for
Al Gore may lose this, and he should do the statesmanlike thing at certain point, but you do know in your heart of hearts that he actually did get more votes in Florida. You do know that.
No, he didn't.
He certainly did.
Why are you saying that?
Why do I say that? Because 19,000 Jews voted for a Nazi.
No, there were 3,000 votes in Palm Beach County. Last time, Pat Buchanan got 9,000 votes, and that was in a primary from Palm Beach County. The Reform Party candidate for Senate got 7,000 votes this year. The idea that these were not votes for Pat Buchanan, I'm
Even
sorry.
Pat Buchanan said, these are not my votes.
He was being modest.
He himself said it.
Yeah, he was being modest. Maybe they weren't
Being
permitted.
modest.
No, he
The
wasn't.
Reform Party-
These are not mine. Really.
He got 9,000
That's kind of you, but
last
no,
time.
I don't.
And if the papers were turned, do you not
Oh,
know?
my
Look, Phil, we
goodness.
know for a fact there are 9,000 Pat Buchanan voters in Palm Beach County. A third of them apparently voted for him again this time.
Also
They're all
interesting.
Jewish Nazis.
Yes. Well, there may be some.
Yes.
I'm sure there were.
Rare.
The funny thing that I've just learned a little while ago is actually people were surprised that he received 51 votes, I think, in the city of Delray Beach. Until I found out that he actually lives there. I thought, well, what an outrage. He lives in this town. Maybe 50 people that know him personally thought, why not? I'm going to vote for him because, frankly, they didn't like the other two guys enough.
But that's Pat Paulson's
you know
territory.
what?
Yeah,
Exactly. And he got 100.
Al Gore lives in Tennessee. He couldn't carry that state. There you go. So, okay. We got to take a break. We will be right back. President Clinton is in Vietnam on a very historic trip. He urged the government over there today to help account for almost 2,000 Americans who are still missing. He said it's imperative that we find if any of these soldiers are still alive. And also, Al Gore asked him to find out if any of them were registered as Democrats in Florida. The Supreme Court today halted a scheduled execution in Texas, of course, Texas, of a retarded man. A retarded man who they say spends his days coloring and believes in Santa Claus. Yeah, apparently this guy is very childlike. Not only does he believe in Santa Claus, but also the Tooth Fairy and that every vote counts. Okay. All right. Let's talk about for a second the president we know we actually have, Bill Clinton, the forgotten man. He's in Vietnam, finally. He's on his better 30 years late than never tour. And a lot of people are saying, while he's over there, why don't you give an apology to the Vietnamese people? Let me give you a list of the people he's apologized for. He apologized for blacks for slavery, Rwandans, because we didn't come to their aid, the Japanese for internment in World War II, Native Americans. He apologized for deposing Hawaii's Queen Liliuokalani during the Cleveland administration, and I was clamoring for that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
He apologized for the Marines in Okinawa because they raped a girl. He apologized for the Tuskegee experiments, and of course he apologized for his own about 100 times.
No, he never apologized.
Never apologized? What planet living on?
Okay, but on to the next topic.
Apologized.
Apologized for the problems. He did not apologize.
Republicans to apologize to him.
Wait a second. Wait.
No, let's go forward. We've talked about Clinton.
There was a time there when he every time.
Apologized to some people for it, but that's among him and his own family.
But he doesn't have to apologize, in my opinion. I mean, I think we're already westernizing. You know, we're already giving lots of aid to Vietnam, right? Isn't it? Don't frown at me. I mean, why apologize? I mean, it was a war.
I also think.
I mean, we're giving them Coca-Cola. We're going to give them casinos soon, and we'll deal as fairly with the Vietnamese people as America dealt with the American Indian.
Yeah, exactly. He's not personally. it wasn't his own policy that actually fathered the problems between the United States and Vietnam. I think his best idea would be to extend a sincere hand of friendship to that nation and hopefully, do our best as we can, actually, when our intentions are good and our performance follows through, do something good for the people of Vietnam.
But also, I think it was, I agree you can't apologize for something someone else did, but I really think the Vietnam War was an incredibly idealistic war. We were trying to, save them from communism.
I agree.
If he apologized, he ought to apologize that we lost the war.
But we did kill 3 million of them.
Well, that's what happens in a war.
We have a wall for 50. That's what happens. I've said before on the show,
we killed a lot of people in World War II and World War I, and the Civil War.
Yeah,
was the cause just? And I think it was.
Wait, what do you mean we should have fought? We should have fought to win the war? What are you saying?
Yeah, in general, I think we should do that with all wars. Actually.
Yeah, but
no, let's fight to lose.
The thing is, with all due respect to the tens of thousands of U.S. soldiers who fought and died in Vietnam, we really shouldn't have been there. This was a war between Vietnam and France, and then we became engaged in a civil war in Vietnam.
Well, we did have.
We should have been out a lot sooner, and we perpetuated this war.
I've said many times on the show, against the whole panel, as I am now, that I think the Vietnam War was actually a smart, noble war, because we were going to have to fight the forces of communism somewhere in the world to show them we mean business and we will spend our blood and treasure to oppose you. However, we chose to do it in someone else's house.
Exactly.
We went to their house and killed 3 million of them.
And we were backing very corrupt leaders. It was widely known.
Yes. We shouldn't at least at this point say, you know what, somebody had to have the home field for the communist fight, but we did it in your place and really wrecked it bad, and we're sorry.
Well, it wouldn't be so bad if we had won. And if he's going to go around apologizing for things other people did, maybe he could apologize for Pol Pot instead.
But Pol Pot didn't kill 3 million Vietnamese. He killed Cambodians. He did.
But we don't have to apologize for him, right? Yeah.
Well, we don't.
No,
that wasn't what we did. We were in Vietnam. It's like going to somebody's house and having a party and completely wrecking their house. You might want to call them up the day after and say, it was a great party.
With that.
And you mentioned Afghanistan. Our government gave Afghanistan billions of dollars to fight the Soviet aggressors. Well, then they defeat the Soviets, and then what happens? What do we do?
Well, that's
we allow the Afghans to turn their weapons on each other and perpetuate a civil war.
It seems to me the victims of communism, it's not like even in the Cold War, it wasn't the United States against Russians. The Russians were the victims of communism. We were trying to release them from slavery, and I'd say the same thing about the Vietnamese. Yes, we're in Vietnam, and it's Vietnamese fighting against Vietnamese, but we're trying to release them all from the yoke of communism.
Yeah, but we were fighting on behalf of the whole world in Vietnam. Vietnam was used as that one place where we were going to take a stand. We were going to take a stand against this global problem. And I think for that reason, we should just say to Vietnam, thanks for the use of the hall.
All right.
All right, we've ground to a halt. We'll take a commercial.
Kirst is on Thursday.
Join us tomorrow when our guest will be actress and author Carrie Fisher, actor Billy Connolly, Florida Representative John Mica, and syndicated columnist Betsy Hart.
New study out today says that young teens who consider themselves virgins are engaging in a lot of oral sex because they don't think that is really sex, because they remember hearing that from President Clinton. and he's worried about his legacy. Okay, let me go back to Florida for 1 second. Assume that they're going to just count the votes that are already in and they're not going to do the hand recount. Then it comes down to the absentee ballots, and everybody is saying that this is going to be for Bush. I don't know about that, because the military people, they say, have already voted. Those are the kind of people, the Republicans, the military types, they get their votes in early. The votes that come in late, I think, are Democratic votes, because that's what the Democrats are like. They're late, they're not organized, they're not anal retentive.
No, I disagree with that.
They don't want deadlines.
The Democrats in the last 8 years have become the most hyper-organized group of individuals I've ever seen. They have been handling crisis after crisis. They know exactly what they're doing. I think they're so on fire.
started by the Republicans.
Oh, well, if you want to think of it that way, that's fine.
Like what?
But
Thank you.
they know how to put spin on things in a much better way than other people. I think there's a very, very committed, dedicated machine there now that I don't really think is indicative of slothfulness or laziness.
You don't think there's a personality difference between people in both parties? I mean, intellectually, I must say, I can't really get behind either party. But I would always...
Actually, I agree with that.
Yes.
I agree. The founding fathers thought that political parties would kill this country, and I think they're probably right.
You know, the problem is
that
that...
things are going to change that much, depending on who is actually, who wins the office? Is that
I'm
what
just
you're
saying emotionally. I would never want to party with the Republicans.
But this is different from which way the absentee votes are going to go. This is
George will have a great White House kegger.
Yeah.
You know? But the problem for me is that there's no one objective entity or person that both sides can look to sort of, to bring everything together. Everything is so partisan. Everything is so literally split down the middle.
I think the American people are really ready for us to start getting along again. I think this has gotten really...
But they have to demonstrate that. The president has to demonstrate that.
And I think
Kennedy, when Kennedy was elected, he did, by that slim margin, he put Republicans in his cabinet. He had, McGeorge Bundy and McNamara, and these
Clinton did the same thing, and they hated him.
Later on, he put Cohen in, right? I mean,
oh, maybe you're right.
You damn straight I'm right.
Hey, man, you got to get that hanging Chad looked at. It's making you hostile.
It's starting to chafe.
I mean, we looked at a map. We looked at a map of how the vote went by county, and the red was for Bush. The whole country was red, except on the coast and by the Mississippi River. It's like people who live near water are Democrats, and the dry people.
Those are all the people that had to flee oppression stopped at the shores, while all the entrenched, Midwesterners.
No, even in Florida and on the coast, it's cities. I mean, it's funny. It's just little dots for
Well, doesn't that tell you something? That when people have to, get close together and get along?
Well, one thing it told me, actually, and I've been thinking this through a little bit, is that cities tend to lean toward the democratic way of thinking because bigger government protects your interests better on a personal level in a large population.
Right.
If you want to live by your own rules, you move to Montana. You move to a place where you can actually be independent and you vote that way. That's what you like. People that want to have as good an existence as they possibly can in a large city environment will actually want the government to take better care of them. Will want more police.
The funny thing about that, I think you're totally right, but the funny thing is it's so stupid. It's totally against their interests. A place like New York City, they send so much more money that ends up in places like Georgia and Montana. Right. It's completely against their interests. They really are just being stupid, but I think you're right.
And Bill, that map the map you're talking about is it makes the best case for the Electoral College.
You shouldn't live
Because otherwise the candidates would just be flocking to the cities and
we'd also be having to recount in the entire nation.
The more people who vote for a certain candidate, right? I mean, the person who gets the majority of the votes in the country should win the presidency, right? I mean, isn't that it?
That not only almost always happens. This is the first time, if it happens, and we still don't know, that it may be the other way, an electoral vote winner and a popular vote. There are a few from the prior century, but usually, I mean, it doesn't take that much to tip it. But you can see from this election what the advantage of it is. Can you imagine going through what we're going through in Florida, in the entire country?
Right.
And thank God we have an electoral college. It gives a decisive win to a narrow popular vote winner.
As Charlton Heston would say, those old dead white guys were pretty smart. All right, we got to take a break. We'll be right back. All right, thank you, you TV stars and you non-TV star, for straightening this out for us. Tomorrow we have Carrie Fisher, Billy Connolly, Representative John Mica from Florida, and Betsy Hart.